Shadur didn't ask for the spotlight, but it found him. And when reporters caught him leaving the facility that day, all he said was, "I'm just focused on football. Everything else will play itself out." That was the final nail. The fans, the players, the sponsors, and now the narrative had all aligned. This wasn't just a rookie being overlooked. This was a young leader being suppressed by a coach who couldn't see past his own playbook.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
So when Stefanski made the stunning choice to still not start Shedeur the following Sunday, it was over before kickoff. The team came out flat. The stadium was tense. Fans weren't just booing, they were leaving. Third quarter, seats were emptying like it was a preseason game in December. By Monday morning, Stefanski was gone. The statement from the Browns front office was so dry it practically turned to dust. "We thank Kevin for his service to the organization and wish him the best in his future endeavors." Translation: "We waited too long and now we're playing catch-up with the guy we should have started weeks ago." Shedeur, to his credit, didn't celebrate. No cryptic posts. No shade. He showed up to his first official practice as QB1 like he'd been doing it for years. Cool, calm, zero theatrics. And in his debut start, he cooked. Over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and the kind of control in the pocket that makes you wonder how anyone ever doubted him. The team looked different, sharper, looser. Even the defense played like they'd been shot with adrenaline. One sideline reporter said it best: "It's like the Browns finally started believing in themselves." That single game didn't just change a season, it rewrote the franchise's narrative. And while Stefanski is probably somewhere drafting up an apology PowerPoint, the Browns are riding high on something they haven't had in years: hope. But here's the kicker, and what makes this whole saga so deliciously modern: Shedeur didn't need to scream. He didn't throw tantrums or trash coaches in interviews. He made one strategic, minimalist post, let the truth marinate and let everyone else connect the dots. He didn't take over the Browns by force. He just waited until the team, the fans, and the entire ecosystem had no choice but to look at him and go, "Yeah, that's the guy." In the post-game presser after his first win, a reporter asked Shedeur what changed. He smiled, barely, and said, "Sometimes you just gotta let people see what they've been missing." Iconic. Not flashy. Not cocky. Just lethal with the calm of a Bond villain. And now the Browns? They've got momentum. The locker room is unified. Fan engagement is surging. The franchise that used to be a running joke is now a case study in how fast things can change when you stop playing politics and start playing your best players. So what's the takeaway? Besides, don't ignore your most talented QB because your offensive coordinator likes doing things by the book. It's this: in today's NFL, silence isn't weakness. It's ammo. And when it finally goes off, the blast radius can end careers. Shedeur Sanders didn't scream. He humbled a coach. And in doing so, he reshaped an entire organization from the inside out. Talent talks. Leadership walks. And if you're not listening, you might just find yourself on the unemployment line, wondering how you lost your job to an Instagram post and a poised 21-year-old with better field vision than your entire offensive staff combined. So shout out to Shedeur Sanders, winner of the Silent Assassin of the Year award, with honorable mention for most likely to lead a revolution without saying a word. And to Kevin Stefanski, thanks for playing. Your complimentary refuse to adapt plaque is in the mail, right next to your final playbook. Hope you like running it in Madden. Let us know in the comments, was Shedeur's move genius or just overdue? And if you were running the Browns, how long would you have waited to bench the old guard? Hit that subscribe button for more meltdowns, shakeups, and franchise implosions. Because in the NFL, the drama never takes a bye week. Once Shedeur Sanders officially took the reins, something strange happened in Cleveland. They started looking like a real football team. And if you've followed the Browns at any point in the last, say, 2 decades, you know how rare that sentence is. The team that once cycled through quarterbacks like Tinder dates suddenly had a leader. Not just a player. A presence. Shedeur's leadership didn't come with loud speeches or dramatic sideline outbursts. No. He brought that surgical confidence. Like someone who knows exactly how good he is and doesn't need to convince you. He just waits for the moment you doubt him and lets the scoreboard finish the conversation. Meanwhile, the media frenzy reached full tilt. Sports talk shows were scrambling to explain what just happened. One week, Stefanski was being cautiously defended as methodical. The next, analysts were calling him a cautionary tale in inflexible coaching. Translation? The NFL had found its latest villain and its newest darling, and they were in the same building only a few lockers apart just weeks before. But let's not act like everything turned into a fairy tale overnight. Oh no. The drama didn't end with Stefanski's firing. It morphed. Because suddenly the Browns' front office, those same suits who watched this whole situation spiral in real time, were scrambling to rewrite their own role in the story. Press releases started floating around with language like long-term vision and collaborative leadership. Owners started doing soft focus interviews, talking about how proud they were of the resilience within the locker room. Okay, cute. But let's not pretend y'all didn't need an Instagram post and a citywide revolt to do the bare minimum. Still, with Shadur under center, the games looked different. The energy was different. Even the fans were different. Tailgates turned into pep rallies. Kids wore number 2 jerseys. And for the first time in years, the Browns felt like a team that wasn't just trying to survive the season, they were trying to win it. Let's talk numbers too, because we're not just here for the vibes. In his first 4 starts, Shedeur posted a 68% completion rate, 1,250 passing yards, 9 touchdowns and only 1 interception, on a tipped ball. His passer rating was elite. His decision-making? Sure. And his pocket awareness? Already better than half the league's veterans. The stat heads were eating it up, and even the crustiest analysts, yes, even the ones who still wear ties on NFL Network, had to admit, this kid was legit. The best part? He didn't act like he was saving anyone. No I told you so moments. No passive-aggressive quotes. Just calm poise, quick reads, and throws so accurate they made defenders turn around mid-play like, wait, where'd the ball go? And the Browns' offense? Suddenly alive. The wide receivers were thriving. Route timing was crisp, spacing was clean, and the play calling, freed from Stefanski's paint-by-numbers script, actually let talent breathe. One of the Browns' tight ends even joked in an interview, feels like we've finally stopped running plays out of a 2016 iPad. And the defense? Oh, they noticed. Because when the offense stays on the field longer, gets more points on the board and actually gives you a lead to protect, guess what? Your job gets a whole lot easier. The locker room? United. For once. Now, let's not gloss over the chaos that came in Stefanski's wake. There were whispers. Assistant coaches getting reassigned, front office officials quietly resigning, and even a brief power struggle over who should actually be calling plays. But the unspoken rule was simple. Don't mess with what's working. Translation, don't touch Shedeur. One particularly icy moment came during a post-game press conference when the interim offensive coordinator was asked who had final say on the week's game plan. He smiled, paused, and said, "We listened to the guy under center. And it's been working so far." Yikes. But that's the thing about modern sports. You can't fake leadership anymore. Not with 4K cameras in every tunnel and players posting cryptic messages during halftime. You either inspire the locker room or you get replaced by someone who does. And Shadur? He didn't just inspire. He recalibrated the entire franchise. The Browns' social media accounts, once a sad echo chamber of next week will be better, suddenly had swag. They leaned into the Shadur era. Cool graphics. Post-game edits. Behind-the-scenes footage showing the team laughing, bonding, vibing. This wasn't just a football team, it was a movement. And fans bought in hard. Home games sold out. Jerseys flew off the racks. Even casual fans started showing up in Sanders merch, yelling, "He's him," before he'd even completed his first pass. And the NFL? You better believe they noticed. Primetime slots. National attention. Commentators who'd barely mentioned Cleveland in a decade were now referencing Shadur in the same breath as Mahomes and Burrow. But here's where it gets poetic. Stefanski's stubbornness, the very thing that torpedoed his job, is exactly what highlighted Shedur's power. By refusing to let the kid play, Stefanski created the myth. He became the obstacle that made Shedur's rise feel like a revolution. It wasn't just a quarterback change. It was a power shift, a mutiny. A case study in what happens when a system refuses to evolve and the future walks right through the front door wearing designer shades and a wristband playbook. You want the most telling moment? It came during Shedur's 5th start, an away game, hostile crowd, playoff implications on the line. The Browns were trailing by 6 with under 2 minutes to go. No timeouts. 75 yards to the end zone. And the moment that huddle broke, you felt it. No panic. No nerves. Just confidence. 4 plays later, touchdown. The camera cut to the sideline, where Shadur calmly sat on the bench, helmet off, expression unreadable. Like he just parallel parked, not just engineered a comeback that saved the season. The NFL is full of loud personalities, divas, hotheads, drama magnets. Shedeur? He's the quiet storm. The guy who doesn't yell to be heard because he knows you're already listening. So here we are, Kevin Stefanski, coaching casualty of the year. A man so dedicated to his system that he ignored the revolution happening in his own building. And Shedeur Sanders? The new face of the Browns. The new voice of player empowerment. And the walking reminder that talent, leadership, and timing will always win out over stubbornness and tradition. It's not just a football story. It's a parable. One that says, in today's game you either adapt or get left behind. Because the future isn't waiting for permission, it's already warming up on the sideline. And the Browns? They stopped waiting. They stopped hoping someone would magically fix things. They listened. Not to the coach. Not to the noise. But to the one guy who was quietly proving every day that he was ready. So what do we call this saga? A redemption arc for a cursed franchise? A warning tale for coaches everywhere? Or maybe, just maybe, the official coming out party for the NFL's next big star? Whatever you call it, one thing's for sure, Shedeur Sanders didn't just change the Browns. He redefined them. Shedeur Sanders' takeover isn't just a quarterback story, it's a full-blown cultural reset. What we witnessed wasn't just the rise of a rookie, it was the fall of an outdated philosophy, the collapse of a control-freak system, and the rebirth of a franchise that's been a national punchline since dial-up internet. And if you think this thing peaked when Stefanski got the boot, think again. That was just the intermission. Because after the Browns made the switch and Shedeur started stacking wins like it was nothing, the league got nervous. You could see it on the sidelines, opposing coaches doing that little jaw clench, coordinators flipping tablets harder than usual, defensive players shouting at each other mid-drive, because suddenly the easy Browns win box wasn't so easy to check anymore. This kid was rewriting the scouting report in real time. And that's the most dangerous kind of player. Not the one with hype. Not the one with swagger. The one you underestimated and now you can't stop. Now let's talk about the players who had to live through the Stefanski regime and what happened after he left. Because when Shedeur stepped into the spotlight, it wasn't just a changing of the guard, it was like someone lifted a hex off the entire locker room. You could practically see the tension evaporate. Guys were smiling again. Press conferences weren't robotic. Players started being human. And what does that tell you? That things had gotten bad. Quietly toxic. Like one of those office jobs where everyone's technically doing their work, but no one wants to be there. Stefanski ran that kind of team. Efficient but suffocating. Nobody was allowed to color outside the lines, and definitely not if you were a rookie with a last name like Sanders and an Instagram following bigger than the state of Ohio. But once Shedeur took over, suddenly players were showing up early, staying late, posting videos of practice like it was fun. It's almost like leadership matters? Crazy. And let's not skip past the fans because Browns fans are not casual. These are ride-or-die people who've suffered through quarterback injuries, 0 to 16 seasons and more rebuilds than a home renovation show. And they don't hand out loyalty points lightly. But with Shedeur, it clicked. Not because he asked for it. Not because he sold himself like a brand. But because he showed up week after week, played like a veteran, and handled the chaos like someone who's already weathered 2 lifetimes of pressure. This city needed someone to believe in, and Shedeur gave them no reason not to. But the most fascinating part of this whole saga? How fast everyone else flipped the script. Remember those analysts who said he wasn't NFL ready? Who called him a system QB in college, or whispered that he was only getting attention because of his last name? Yeah, those guys. Now they're practically writing love letters. One even said, if he keeps this up, we're talking MVP conversations in a year or 2. Amazing how talent plus receipts can make a lot of people suddenly eat their words on national television. And while we're on it, can we talk about how well Shedeur managed the media storm? Because this could have easily turned into a sideshow. His dad is Deion Sanders, one of the most charismatic and media-savvy figures in sports history. The cameras are going to follow him no matter what. That spotlight? Built in. But Shedeur never leaned on it. Never played into the noise. His interviews? Calm. Respectful. Focused. He gave the press nothing to twist. And that, right there, is terrifying to opposing teams. Because now you're dealing with a player who not only dominates on the field but doesn't rattle off it. And you know who else noticed? Other players. Star receivers suddenly started expressing a lot of admiration for Shedeur in interviews. Defensive backs? Giving him props unprompted. And then, the trade rumors. Not from the Browns. Oh no, they're holding on to him with both hands. But players on other teams started hinting, subtly, strategically, that if they ever had the chance to play with Shedeur, they'd take it. That's franchise quarterback energy. That's not, maybe he'll be good someday. That's right now. And behind the scenes, rumors are swirling. Sponsors that once played it safe are now begging for deals. Local businesses are naming sandwiches after him. National brands are sliding into the DMs. The Browns, yes, the Browns, are suddenly cool. Which brings us back to the front office. Because now they've got a new problem: keeping up. It's one thing to stumble into a generational talent. It's another to build a whole ecosystem that doesn't waste it. And Cleveland knows that window is small. You either build a winner around him now, or you become one of those sad, what could have been stories ESPN keeps running montages about in 5 years. So yeah, the pressure? It's real. And you better believe everyone in that building is feeling it. Coaches, GMs, staffers. No one's coasting. Not anymore. Not now that they've seen what's possible when you stop playing it safe. Shedeur has changed what's expected in Cleveland. And when expectations rise that fast, the stakes go nuclear. But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about one team or one player. This is about the NFL itself. Shedeur Sanders represents something bigger, the era of the empowered athlete. A player who understands the game, understands the culture, and, most importantly, understands the audience. He doesn't just play football. He moves narratives. He forced a coaching change without ever demanding one. He united a fractured fan base without a single viral outburst. He flipped the trajectory of a cursed franchise, without breaking a sweat. And all of it, every jaw-dropping pass, every quiet flex, every moment of composure, was a masterclass in how the modern quarterback isn't just a field general anymore. He's a CEO, a brand, a strategist, a public figure who can't just perform, he has to lead the way people think, feel, and buy in. And that's exactly what he's done. So, let's do a little recap, shall we? Kevin Stefanski clung to control, played it safe, got blindsided by a player who understood the moment better than he did. Now he's sitting at home, probably rereading his old playbooks like they're breakup letters. The Browns? Once a mess, now a movement. A team that finally learned the hard way that talent ignored is talent lost, and that the best leaders don't wait to be invited. And Shedeur Sanders? Well, he didn't just take the job. He took over. And the scariest part? This is just the beginning. Shedeur didn't just walk onto the field and play well. He cracked open the crusty old system that so many teams cling to, the one where titles and tenure matter more than talent. The one where you wait your turn, you earn it by sitting behind someone who peaked 4 seasons ago, and you keep your head down while the same recycled strategies get wheeled out like they're still revolutionary. But not anymore. Not in this NFL. The Browns learned that lesson the hard way. You think Stefanski's the last coach who's gonna get humbled by a new generation quarterback with charisma, strategy, and surgical execution? Think again. This is just the beginning of a new kind of leadership, one that doesn't ask for respect. It radiates it, and we need to talk about just how rare that is. See, in pro football, rookies get boxed in fast. They're either the hyped-up savior who gets dragged under the weight of expectations, or the quiet project buried on the depth chart, collecting dust while the franchise sinks. But Shedeur broke that mold in real time, in front of a national audience without ever demanding it. He didn't come in with a cape on. He came in like a mirror, reflecting back every single flaw in the Browns' structure that leadership refused to fix. Every snap he didn't take? It said more about them than it ever did about him. And that's the twist that still gets me. Kevin Stefanski could have been the guy. He could have been the forward-thinking coach who saw the shift coming, who handed the keys to the future early, who bet on the rookie before the walls caved in. Instead, he got dragged out of his job by a silent uprising and a 41-point beatdown that exposed just how far behind he'd fallen. Because let's be clear, this was never just about Shedeur's skills. It was about his impact. The way he carried himself, the way teammates rallied around him, the way even veteran players started bending toward his energy like sunflowers looking for light. There's no play in the book for that. You either have it or you don't. And Shedeur has it in spades. Look no further than how the vibe around the Browns changed. And yes, I said vibe because vibes matter. You can't fake locker room energy. You can't script confidence. And you definitely can't manufacture the kind of calm control that Shedeur brings to the field. He's not the loudest guy in the room. But he's the one everyone turns to when it matters. That's leadership. That's what Stefanski missed. That's what so many front offices still miss. And if we're being honest, Shedeur didn't need the Browns. They needed him. Desperately. They just didn't know it until it was almost too late. Let's not forget how deep this thing got. This wasn't just Stefanski benching a rookie. It was a philosophy war. The old guard versus the new era. Process versus instinct. Control versus trust. And trust? That's the currency Shedeur dealt in. He earned it from teammates by showing up. By putting in work. By throwing dots in practice while getting ignored by the clipboard holders on the sideline. By staying professional while the narrative tried to box him in. And that Instagram post? That was surgical. Just enough. No names, no drama. Just a laser-aimed shot through the heart of the Browns' dysfunction. It lit a fuse, and Shedeur never even had to strike the match. Players got behind him. Fans got behind him. And ownership? Once they saw the tide turning, they moved fast. Firing Stefanski mid-season? That's not something Cleveland does lightly. That's not strategic planning. That's desperation mixed with clarity. Because what choice did they have? Keep clinging to a system that clearly wasn't working? Or step into the fire, admit they got it wrong, and bet everything on the one guy who's been silently holding this entire thing together from the sidelines? They made the right call. Barely. But now the bar is raised. And not just for Cleveland. For everyone. Because Shedeur's not a one-off. He's the prototype for what's coming. Boys, media-aware, talent-rich, and smart enough to play the long game. Front offices across the league just got a wake-up call. If you think you can bury a QB like this behind your pet project or your safe veteran, if you think you can ignore momentum in a league where perception moves faster than your playbook, you're in for a long, painful season. Because the blueprint just changed. Shedeur's rise wasn't just an isolated moment. It was a shift. A reminder that in this era of sports, talent isn't waiting for a permission slip. Leadership doesn't need a title. And if your team is too slow to recognize it, the fans will. The locker room will. And sooner or later you'll be gone. So what happens next? That's the part that gets scary, or exciting depending on which side of the headset you're on. The Browns have something now that they haven't had in years. Not just a quarterback, not just wins, but belief. And belief is dangerous. Because once a franchise believes, truly believes, it starts expecting more. From everyone. From ownership. From the staff. From every single player on that field. The excuses? Gone. The waiting games? Over. And Shedeur Sanders? He's just getting started. So don't be surprised when you see Cleveland make noise deep into the season. Don't act shocked when national analysts start calling it the Shedeur effect. And definitely don't blink when other young QBs across the league start pulling out the same playbook. Not on the field but off it. Posting cryptic messages. Challenging the system. Holding their teams accountable. Because the era of quiet obedience is over. The era of smart, strategic, unshakable leadership? Yeah, that's just beginning. So if you're a fan, buckle up. If you're a coach stuck in your ways, maybe update that resume. And if you're another young QB waiting for your shot, take notes. Because Shedeur didn't just change the Browns. He changed the game. And if you thought that was dramatic, just wait till next Sunday.